Now, I know what you're thinking, Harry Potter without Yule Ball? That's not true, that's impossible. But hello there and welcome to the video where I show you it is indeed possible. We have a base plate here which by the end will hopefully look a bit more Harry Potter, perhaps winter themed, and theme it up with the sets that we looked at last week. This is the second week in trying to improve our Harry Potter Lego display. And before I start trying to explain it, let me go grab the sets. Because last week we took a look at the 4 sets that are going to be at the front of our display with a little bit over the back. Now, I won't be getting into the entire display, so you can go back, watch that video at a later date. But we've got the solid block that is Hogsmeade using the 2 buildings from the Hogsmeade set. And those will be placed next to Fort Privet Drive and Hagrid's house. Now, the main part of this video will be focusing on Hogsmeade because that is the wintry side of Harry Potter, at least where the snow's concerned. So that is how we're going to be making a Christmas Harry Potter display without any Yule Ball. Anyway, I have this base plate here. This is not going to be enough to cover all of these sets, but it's 1 stud over being half the width of the display. Now, Hogsmeade is going to take up not exactly half, but not far off half. So if we can knock off a stud and try to cut this base plate in half. This isn't a Lego branded base plate. I don't think they make 48 by 48s in any other color than gray. I'm not even sure they make green ones this big. So we are going to be taking this off-branded base plate, chopping it up to try and get it to fit. And for that, we're going to need some tools. So I've got some safety gloves and a box cutter because it's the safest tool when cutting this. And really, I should probably have a mat underneath it. I'm going to spend the next couple of minutes. I spent the whole morning trying to get the mic to work, at least to improve the mic I should be setting. So hopefully it's better for this video. I'll only see when I'm editing this. And I guess I'll come back when I've got this cut up into reasonable size shapes. And once we cut a line on the base plate, I guess I don't need these gloves anymore when working with Lego. What we should be able to do is to fold it along the line that we've just cut in the middle, which is a lot easier said than done, especially when the base plate is so big and so stiff. I might have to go over this again. And then once we fold it again, make sure to fold it away from you just in case it does splinter at all. You should be able to fold it in half, and then it's just really a matter of time before it falls apart. Now, if I have taken my measurements correctly, this should be the length of the diorama, and it gives us 20 studs to work with in front. It's 1 stud over being half the width of the display. And not only do both these plates fit in the unit, there's actually an extra 8 studs. Now, this was the biggest base plate I had, and I'll probably just chop up one of my other little bits that I've previously chopped up to fit another base plate in here because I have a ton of them. So that's not a worry for me, but it also gives 18 studs behind these in the unit, which is where the most fragile Harry Potter set I think we have in our collection, the Hogwarts, not the Express, but the actual station, will be seated. Now, placing it on this base plate, we can see straight away it's about 22 studs wide. So that gives us an extra 6 studs to build something between both this platform and the sets. In fact, we could probably even overhang the sets by 6 studs because I don't think we'll be including anything else on this display. And knowing that makes today's work all so much easier because we can start to place down these sets. Now, the sets will be kept as they are. So I'll probably whack down at least a brick and then some jumper tiles or something so the sets can be popped off fairly easy. But if we bring back Hogsmeade, which is definitely something I want to get done and finished today, you'll be able to see it has almost its own base plate. Now, if I do hang this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 studs off the back, you'll also notice we have a load of room to work with here, which is really, really nice because we can have a nice little scene and a load of accessories out front. And then we have a whole nother base plate for the other 2 sets. So we'll focus on Hogsmeade for the minute. We have a ton of accessories. Okay, well, maybe not a ton. We do have a ton of accessories over there, but only 3 of them really apply to Hogsmeade. So I'm going to go through a load of white plates, which I don't really own in my collection, trying to create some snow. But I also want to muddy it up, add a little gravel path or something, and there'll be some reference images that I'll try and flash up on screen now that I've used throughout building this process. But I've spoken long enough this video already. You want to see what I'm going to get done. So let's start tiling, and I'll come back when I've got at least a footprint of the path. So hopefully you can get a glimpse into what this display is going to look like. The first third is done, and I think I do have enough time to start working on at least 4 privet drives. So we'll do that shortly. I've left a bit of space here on the left-hand side of the base plate for a bridge, which I think could tie the different scenes together quite nicely, but also might not work for the sort of diorama, the continuous diorama that I'm trying to create. So I don't know if I'll just have some snow-covered pavement here or exactly how the transition is going to work, but that is something that we will find out very, very shortly. Still, the sets are able to be popped off individually if I did want to, say, review these on the channel or take a look at them, compare them with anything in the near future, and that is made possible with a few techniques. First off, we've got some jumpers here on the base plate, which not only allow the set to be clipped on and off easily, but also allows a smooth finish on the base plate when they are off. I was debating making them in white. I don't have enough jumpers in white, and therefore I haven't tiled off the rest. But we have a few tiles around to smooth off the corners. A lot of these Hogsmeade buildings use rounded off plates, which does look really cool when they're on the shelf alone, but makes it really hard to cover every inch of a square building system. But nonetheless, the tiles fill in any of the gaps. We have a slightly raised bed of snow here, perhaps where people aren't walking between the 2 buildings, and I'd also like to have a little bank of snow perhaps on the footpath, but I want to see how many minifigures we will be putting on this in the future. Again, I don't know if the minifigures will be added this week or if we'll do it next week when I hope to be fixing up the train behind these buildings. We'll have to see how much time we have to date, but the buildings clip on fairly easily. We've got not only the jumper plates on here, but because this raises the buildings up at the back where there's not enough base plate, what I have done is added some plates to match however many plates are on the base plate, and then added some of these round, they look like chocolate buttons, but these 2x2 underside tiles, which create the difference that you'll see in the base plate and enable them to sit flat on the table. I thought they were a little more than a base plate, but it turns out they work perfectly, and I'm not quite sure if the math lines up, but as they work, if they're not broke, don't fix them. So both of these sets clip on, and now we can slide this away and take a look at 4 privet drive. Now this one's going to be a bit tricky because we don't actually have that much of a base plate to display this on. In fact, we're going to need the other building to know exactly where 4 privet drive is going to line up. So we'll clip that down just for a short while. And this is 3 studs in. It's almost like it's magic, but that means we've got 3 studs here. We've then got an 8 stud jump before we get to the next base plate, because Hagrid's hut is going to have a lot of greenery and we're just going to need the studs for that. I'm going to put the gap right in the middle, and from the front we're not going to be able to see it because I can just grab 8 studs from the part that I cut off, reuse, reduce, recycle, and fill the gaps so that you've still got the green base plate along the bottom. But this isn't going to help us now. So what I'm going to focus on is, I think, the footpath. We could have some sort of diagonal bridge, which would make not only the bridge longer, it would also shorten the distance that the bridge is actually traveling and have a little water feature, but that will then go right up to the house, which, unless it's part of some sewage system, isn't going to look good. And even if it is part of some sewage system, it's not going to smell good for any of the minifigures living here. So once again, I think I'm going to do this off camera because otherwise this video is just going to be incredibly long. Let me know if you would like to see more of the process in future videos, but I'll be back once we've got some sort of pavement in the works. So the pavement is now done and the house does sit a bit more forward, which is quite nice because it's enabled me to line up the pavement with the footpath that we've got previously. Lucius Malfoy is just hanging onto. that bench. We've also got a little bit of what might be a road, which is why I've given a little curbside here. However, the Dudleys they're usually a bit more space in front of their house. So I've taken some creative liberties here, but I think it's going to look all really, really nice when it's lined up together. Now, there's a little gap between these base plates. So I have, as I said, chopped up one of my other spare pieces just to make sure none of the plates are going to go through or separate or not be as in system as perhaps they should, which should help keep this model together, I say, as I'm squeezing down some of the plates. I might have to go over it with my mallet. However, we're now on to the final third of this display. I'm going to go get some food and perhaps continue this afterwards, but what should hopefully be the case if I am able to continue is we can get Hagrid's hut sat on here. We might have about a stud either side, so I could perhaps already tow this down, and it will be sitting about 6 studs back. So there'll be plenty of space for a dirt path. I'm probably going to only have the dirt path go up to the door so we can add a few accessories like Buckbeak and all the pumpkins that actually come with this set. But I'm going to have a think on it, fill my stomach, and hopefully we'll be back and I can show you what I've got done. So let's travel over to the Harry Potter display now, and as you can see, I've basically finished the first iteration at least of the display. I can't promise this won't be improved over weeks, months, years, even decades to come. Who knows at this point, but you can see I have built Hagrid's hut into the diorama, into the front bit here, but I'd like to focus on the snowy area. Again, we're building a Christmassy display without any Yule Ball theming, and even the minifigures here, none of them are Yule Ball characters, but we have some from the Harry Potter CMF down here with the 2 twins, and we also have Harry's parents, which, you know, I'm not quite sure what time we are pulling from this display, but I guess it's all over. They're trying to sell something to Neville down here. We have Ron and Hermione coming out of the pub. Let's just close up that roof a bit. We even have, I think these are the 2 owners of Honeydukes, though I'm not entirely sure, and a few other characters like the Malfoys as well on the bench here, which we are getting new ones of at some point thanks to the leaks from Smiths. And again, if you do want to know more about that, I mention it in Monday's stream. But that is the Christmassy section of our display covered, and as we move along, it bleeds almost effortlessly into a typical street here. Very different to what we're seeing over in the city next door, but we've got the Ford Anglia in front of Fort Privet Drive, which looks quite nice. I've tried to tie it in with a base with some of the classical Lego flowers just down here, and then that eventually bleeds into the pavement, actually connects really well with the Hogsmeade path. You can see few different greys to bleed them together, and then we just go straight into a muddy path for Hagrid's. It makes sense for the pavement just to cut it off like that. I've seen a load of people try and bleed that, but cement isn't just going to be dropped in random areas throughout the mud, so I've just cut it straight off, angled the curb, I guess it is here, into the muddy terrain. We've got Hagrid waiting outside. We've also got Harry riding Buckbeak, and then we also have the troll with the professor in, or the short-term headmaster in its hands, which I think is really, really cool. Again, we've kept the green base plate down here. I'll probably add some more vegetation like leaves and that. Probably not any more mud, but I have used these dark tan wedge plates and tiles just around Hagrid's hut to bring a bit of the muddy look together. And then we've got a nice green field. Maybe we can even add a little tree. I'm pretty sure this troll came in a set with a tree, so we could definitely add that at some point. But it's looking good, and you'll also notice there is no Hogwarts Express behind it like there was last week. I'm not sure if we got a really good look because the lighting isn't great from this angle, but I have removed the minifigure display case just up here because, as you can see with the grand reveal, I have spun around Hogwarts Castle. We are still going to be working on that. I don't think that will be next week. I think next week we'll probably go on to the Hogwarts Express. I've just got to find a box for it to sit on. But at some point, I would like to make this look a bit more like Hogwarts next to the Disney castle. I think that could look really, really cool. We have a few other Harry Potter creatures, animals, and then we have the remaining figures behind, some of which will be moved into Hogwarts, but still makes a really nice display. And it'll probably be like the Disney castle. We haven't spun the Disney castle around for a while, and you see all the Disney characters on there. But we used to spin it around every so often. We'll probably do the same with Hogwarts, but we will need to rearrange that at some point. So for next week, we are probably going to be taking a look at the Hogwarts Express, which will be behind here. Hopefully we can get some like deliveries and get just like a typical cardboard box to put it on even. But we will be decorating that up, and we have a few other sets to put underneath that as well. It'll be interesting how we make that work. And then for the final week, we'll probably take a look at the castle. So that is all for today's video. I think it's looking much, much better, and especially alongside the Lego City and the Minecraft display and the minifigures, which I am still working on. Again, if you joined the live, you'll know a few updates about the figures and also about Hogwarts next week. Now, regarding what I showed off, I might change it a little bit. There are a few other ways we can get it done, but again, we'll take a look at that next week. If you didn't catch last week's video, I'll have that on screen, as well as one of YouTube's choosing. But thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you're new here. I would love for you to join the community. And as always, may the bricks be with you.